Hello, you guys. Today's lesson is on translating verbal expressions and equations. One of the things that I know about my math students traditionally is that when it comes to word problems, they're not super excited. But I want you guys to know that if you pay attention closely to today's lesson, you are going to be able to do this. Okay, I'm going to help you through this. We're going to start with some vocabulary. Remember at the very beginning of this class, I told you that one of the reasons that math is so tricky for so many students is because of the vocabulary and not having a good understanding of that. So the first thing I want to do with you guys is go over this chart. It says words into math. We're going to be using this chart today as we do our lesson. So let's just go ahead and look at this first group right here. All of the words in this group mean addition. Okay, so add, sum, increased by, more, together, and, plus, combined. So as you're translating verbal expressions or equations, it's important to realize that if you see any of these words, that just means addition. Okay, let's look at the next set, subtraction. So subtract, difference, decreased by, minus, take away. All of these are different words to mean the same thing, and that's just subtraction. When we look at division, quotient, shared, per, ratio, divided by, these all mean division. Multiplication, words that mean multiplication are product, times, the word of, that one's a little bit tricky, multiply, twice. Twice just means two times something. So if it's twice, I want to add one word here on the division. One word I just realized that is not there, and that is half. And you may see that sometime. So half just means that you're going to divide something by 2. Okay, if something's half of something, you're going to divide it by 2. Okay, now this one right here, this is a key word. Is. Okay, whenever you see the word is, that just means equals. So whenever you see the word is, you are going to replace that with an equal sign. Okay? These are some other words that you might see to mean the same thing as equals. Are, were, will be, gives, totals. For most of the ones that we're dealing with today, though, you'll be using the word is to mean equals. Okay, parentheses words. So times the difference of twice the sum of plus the difference of. Okay, and I'm going to show you how these parentheses work in today's lesson. And then these ones right here, these turnaround words, than and from. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and move to our next slide. And we're going to practice using these words. We're going to practice translating some verbal expressions. So we're going to start with some of the words that indicate addition. You can see on this slide that I wrote all of them down. So sum, more than, plus, increased by, combined, and together add. And we are going to practice a few of these together. So a verbal expression looks like this. The sum of 6 and a number. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to translate this. Instead of having it be words, we want to translate it into an expression that has numbers and variables. Remember, expressions do not have equal signs. Okay, so we know the word sum means addition. Okay, then if we want to translate this, the sum of 6 and a number, we need to know that anytime it says a number, that's something we don't know. So we're going to assign that a variable. Okay, so if we're doing the sum of 6 and a number, that just means we're doing the addition of 6 and a number. Okay, so this would translate into n plus 6. Okay, let's look at the next one. 8 more than a number. Okay, so remember the words more than, that just means addition. Okay, and then we know that if it says a number, that's something that we don't know, so we're going to assign that a variable. So then we're left with 8 more than a number. So really we just follow the sentence and we plug in what we know in the sentence and it will leave us with our expression. So let's go ahead and look at the next one. A number plus 5. Well, we know anytime it says a number, we're just going to assign a variable, and we can use any variable. I'm just picking in. You could use X or Y or T or S, whatever you wanted to stand in for a number. So a number and then plus 5. Looks like this. A number plus 5. Okay, let's look at the next one. A number, okay, so we're going to make that n, increased by, we know that that means addition, and then we have 7. A number increased by 7. Okay, so easy, right? So far, so good. Let's go ahead and look at some of the words that indicate subtraction. So we've got difference, less than, minus, subtract, take away, decreased by. There's one that I'm going to circle in red because it's one that is bound to trick us, and I don't want it to trick you guys. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you how the less than one works and why it's tricky sometimes. So let's look at the first one, the difference between 5 and a number. Okay, so we know that difference means subtraction. So we know this right here, the difference, we know that's going to be a subtraction. The difference between 5 and a number, remember that anytime it says a number, that's something that we don't know. So if we're doing the difference between 5 and a number, it would look like this. The difference between 5 and a number. Difference just means subtraction. Okay, now here's that less than one that I was talking about. Okay, and I'm actually going to circle that in red. Okay, anytime you see less than, I want you to be alert. Okay, so that you don't do this in the wrong order. Whenever you see less than, you can't just substitute a subtraction sign in for that. Instead, when it says 4 less than a number, you have to write down the a number first. Okay, so we write down a number and then it's 4 less than that. Okay, and that's what's tricky about it. Let's say that I had $5 less than you. To figure out how much money I have, we would take however much money you have and subtract 5. Okay, so this less than one, it's a little bit tricky, but as long as you remember that you can't just substitute a subtraction in there, you actually have to write down the number first, and then you have to do 4 less than that. Okay, so 4 less than a number looks like this. Okay, we have to write down a number first, and then it's 4 less than that. Okay, let's look at the next one. 7 minus a number. Well, minus just means subtraction, and then we know a number is going to mean our variable, so 7 minus a number. The next one, A number decreased by 9. Okay, so let's go ahead and just translate this. So a number decreased by, and then 9. A number decreased by 9. Okay, so something that's going to be very key for this lesson for you is to pay attention to the words. Okay, so whatever the words are telling you, you just follow those to translate your expression. Okay, so let's go through the ones that indicate multiplication. Product, times, multiplied, twice. Here's some examples. The product of 9 and a number. Well, we know that a number is going to be our n. We know that product is multiplication. So if we're showing the product of 9 and a number, it's going to look like this. 9 times n. Okay, the next one. 10 times a number. So 10 times a number. Looks like this. A number multiplied by 3. So a number multiplied by 3 would look like this. 1/4 of. Okay, remember the word of actually means multiplication. So if you're going to do 1/4 of a number, you just put the number right next to 1/4, and we know that's implied multiplication. So 1/4 of a number looks like this, and then twice a number. Remember, I told you anytime you see twice, that's just going to be 2 times. Okay, so 2 times the number. So 2 times the number. Okay, the last set, words that indicate division. So the quotient, or let's go over these really quick. Divide, quotient, divided by, shared, per, ratio. Examples. The quotient of a number and 6. Remember, this is a division sign, right? So if we're going to do the quotient of a number and 6, look like this. Or 7 divided by a number. So you could do this. 7 divided by a number. Or you could do 7 divided by a number. Both of these show division. And then this next one, 10 people per group. Okay, and in this one, we don't know how many people are in the group. So that's our variable. It's the number of people in the group. And then if we want to make sure there's 10 people per group, we'd have to take the number of people that are in the group, divide that by 10. Okay, so those are some verbal expressions. For the next one, the next examples, we're going to be translating some verbal equations and inequalities. So remember, equations have equal signs. Inequalities have greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to signs. Okay, so remember, an important one to remember is whenever you see the word is, that means equals. So let's just go through and translate this sentence just like it is written. So it says the sum of a number and 12 is 16. So let's figure out the things that we know here. So we know a number. That's going to be n. We know the sum. We know that that's addition. We know we're doing the sum of a number and 12. Okay, so the sum of a number and 12 is going to look like this. So that's just the addition of a number and 12. And then we have our keyword is, and then we have 16. So n plus 12 equals 16. And then you guys should be able to solve that equation from there. And we're not actually going to solve the equations right now. We're going to be doing that a little bit later. So for this slide, we're just going to translate these words into an equation or inequality. So the next one, the quotient of 15 and a number is less than, oh, there's the less than. You guys be on guard whenever you see less than. We have to read this very carefully. Okay, so let's read this again. The quotient of 15 and a number, x. Okay, so the quotient of 15 and a number x is less than 3. Okay, so here's our equals is less than 3. So in this case, we're going to have to turn this around. Whenever you see the words less than, it's basically their turnaround words. So that means it's going to turn our problem around. So we're going to be working this way as we write it. So we have to write the 3 first because the quotient of 15 and a number x is less than 3. So we have to write down the 3 first, and then we have to write down the quotient of 15 and a number x. Okay, so the quotient of 15 and a number x is less than 3. Okay, so here's our is less than. So that's what that one looks like. Okay. The next one, the product of 5 and a number x is 25. The product of 5 and a number x is 25. So product means multiplication. So we're doing the product of 5 and a number x. And then is, that's our equals, 25. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the next one. 10 times a number x is greater than or equal to. Okay, so for this one's going to be an inequality sign, greater than or equal to. So 10 times a number x, 10 times a number x, remember times is just 10 times, then we have a number x, so 10 times a number x is greater than or equal to 50. Okay, so that's how we translate verbal equations or inequalities. So we're going to do some sample questions together, and then you guys are going to have some of these that you need to practice on your own. So in this case, our instructions say 2 less than twice a number is the sum of a number and 6. And then what is the number? So we're actually going to have to write the verbal expression, and then we are going to actually figure out what the number is. Okay, so we're going to write the verbal expression or equation or inequality, and then we're going to figure out what the number is if it is an equation or inequality. So 2 less than twice a number is the sum of a number and 6. So I'm going to go ahead and snip this and put it on another slide so that we have a little bit more space. Okay, so we have to be careful here. Do you guys see that this one has one of those less than, the less than words right here? Okay, so we have to be very, very careful. That means it's going to actually flip our problem around. 2 less than twice a number is the sum of a number and 6. What is the number? So let's take this just one step at a time. So this is 2 less than twice a number is. Okay, so let's write the part that's in red first. So 2 less than twice a number. So twice a number looks like this. It's 2 times a number, right? But then we're going to have to do 2 less than that. So we have to write down twice a number first and then 2 less than that. Okay, do not do this. Okay, these two are not the same. And they're not the same because this is a positive 2n, and if you write it like this, it's going to make this a negative 2n and this a positive 2. Okay, so please make sure that when you see the words less than, you flip it around. You have to do the twice a number first and then 2 less than that. Okay, so let's go ahead and write this part of our equation. So we have to do twice a number, 2 less than twice a number. So 2 less than twice a number is, okay, and then we have our next part, the sum of a number and 6. So the sum of a number and 6. And then it says, what is the number? So this is just an equation where you have the variable on both sides, and you guys are really good at solving these by now. So our first step would be to get these two terms on the same side by subtracting n, one n from both sides, which gives me 1n minus 2 equals 6. And then from there, I just need to add 2 to both sides, so n equals 8. So once we've translated the verbal equation, then we need to solve the equation that we've written. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, so we have 4 less than twice a number is the sum of 2 times the number and 4. Okay, we have those less than. We have that less than word again, right? Less than. So we know that that's actually going to make it so that we have to pay careful attention as we write our problem. So 4 less than twice a number. Please, you guys, do not do this. Okay, this is wrong. Okay, you can't do 4. This would be twice a number less than 4. Okay, do not write your expression like this. When it says 4 less than twice a number, you have to write the twice a number first and then 4 less than that. Okay, so 4 less than twice a number is, so there's our equals, and then we have the sum of 2 times the number and 4. So the sum of 2 times the number and 4. So that means we're adding 2 times the number and 4. Now we have to figure out what is the number. Okay, so if we were to solve this equation, it's a variable on both sides. We need to get these two terms on the same side by subtracting 2n. So we're left with negative 4 equals positive 4. Okay, you guys, our variable dropped out. We're left with a statement that is not true. So whenever that happens, the solution for our equation is no solution. Okay, and if we go back to this step right here, we can see that we have 2n minus 4 equal to 2n plus 4, and that is, there's nothing we can plug in for n that would ever make this true, because on one side we're subtracting 4 and on the other side we're adding 4. Okay, so we have no solution. Let's look at the next one. Okay, you guys, this one is super tricky. I will say that you're probably going to see questions like this on your final test for this class, so make sure you pay careful attention here, okay? An integer n is added to 3. That sum is then multiplied by 3. The result is 5 less than twice the original integer. What is the integer? Woo. Okay, we can do this. So let's just take it one step at a time. So an integer n is added to 3. So let's just write this part first. We can do this. Let's do it one step at a time. An integer n is added to 3. Okay, so an integer n is added to 3. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Okay, so we did this part. An integer n is added to 3. Now let's take the next part. Okay, that sum is then multiplied by 3. Okay, so whatever the sum of this is, that's going to be multiplied by 3. Okay, so that sum, whatever n plus 3 is going to be multiplied by 3. Now, this result is, that's where our equal sign goes. Okay, now let's just do the last part. This isn't too bad, is it? Okay, so let's do this last part. 5 less than twice the original integer. Oh, there's the less than again. So that's going to turn our problem around. 5 less than twice the original integer. Do not do this, you guys. I'm telling you, you're going to do that. I don't want you to do that. If it says less than, you have to write twice the original integer first, which looks like this, and then 5 less than that. Okay, and then we just have to figure out what is the integer. And you guys know how to solve equations, so let's just go ahead and do that really quickly. We would first have to distribute the 3. We need to simplify our left side. That would be 3 times n plus 3 times 3, which is 9, equal to 2n minus 5. And then from there, we would subtract 2n from both sides. So we get n plus 9 equals negative 5. And then we minus 9 from both sides. So n is equal to, sorry, that was a 9, negative 14. Voila. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our next one. Okay, so this is our last one, you guys, and then you have some that you need to do on your own. The best part about this lesson is it is your last lesson. This is the last part of new information that you're going to learn before you take your final test. So that's kind of cool. You guys have learned a lot this block. So here we go. 2 times a number divided by 5 is equal to 4. So 2 times a number, oh, we know how to do that. That's easy. 2 times a number. We can do that. 2 times a number. Okay, divided by, we know what that looks like too. Divided by 5 is equal to 4. And then find the number. Okay, now for this one, if we make this 4 a fraction by putting it over 1, can you guys see that we have a proportion? And remember, on our equations with fractions lesson, we learned that anytime you have a proportion, the way to solve that is to cross multiply. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. 1 times 2n is 2n. 5 times 4 is 20. And then from there, to find the number, all we have to do is divide both sides by 2. So n equals 10. You guys, you did it. I know this lesson was kind of long and not that exciting, but it's really important that you are able to translate words into expressions, equations, or inequalities. So this right here is your assignment. You have 5 questions that I want you to do on your own, and I'm going to be giving you some feedback when you turn these in. Like I said earlier, this is your last new lesson for this block, and as soon as you're done with this, you'll be ready for your review and then your test. So I'm going to help you a little bit on each of these, just steer you in the right direction. If there's anything that I see that's tricky, I'm going to give you some hints there. Okay? So when 6 is added to 4 times a number, the result is 50. Okay, so I'm just going to help you with realizing that your equal sign is going to go right here, where we have the red. When 6 is added to 4 times a number, the result is 50. So find the number. For the next one, the sum of a number and 9 is multiplied by -2, and the answer is -8. Find the number. Okay, so for this one, I just want to caution you to do this one step at a time. Do this part first, the sum of a number and 9. So that would look like this, the sum of a number and 9. Okay, and then that sum is going to be multiplied by -2. Okay, so that's where you have to put your -2 here. And then I guess we might as well just go ahead and finish this one together. And the answer is -8. And then you guys solve from there. On question number 3, if 4 is subtracted from twice a number. Okay, so be careful here. 4 is subtracted from twice a number. Read that very carefully. The 4 is subtracted from twice a number. The result is 10 less than the number. Okay, that one's a little bit challenging, but I think you guys can get it. Remember, the less than, you have to write down that very carefully. Okay, let's look at number 4. 3 times a number divided by 2 is the number divided by 4. So here's where your equal sign is going to go. Okay, and then the last one, an integer n is added to 2. So integer n is added to 2, and that sum is then multiplied by 3. That result is 5 less than, there's the less than again, is 5 less than the original integer. What is the integer? So for help with number 5, go back to, let's see, this one right here, this example. And that will help you, okay? Okay, you guys, with that said, we're just barely over 30 minutes. I'm sorry this lesson ended up being long. Make sure that you turn this assignment into the Translating Verbal Expressions assignment box, and your next assignment will be to do your final block review. Thanks, you guys.